Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Lauren Izo. And coming up in this edition, do you have a green passport? We'll break down all the things you can and can't do if you've already been vaccinated. After a whale is found dead on an Israeli beach, the country is pitching in to clean a horrible and dangerous oil spill. And for the first time, Tel Aviv University launches a Nano Satellite into space. Israel, Russia, and Syria, and an unusual tale of three-way diplomacy. Russia helping to facilitate over the weekend the release of a 25-year-old Israeli woman after she illegally crossed the border into Syria, where she was detained and questioned for 2 weeks.
לפני כשבועיים קיבלנו מידע על אזרחית ישראלית הנמצאת בידי כוחות הביטחון הסוריים. היא עברה לצד הסורי, על דעתה ובכוחות עצמה, אירוע שעוד נתחקר אותו. מיד התחלנו לפעול להשבתה. הבהרנו לצד השני שמדובר באזרחית ושיש כאן אירוע הומניטרי ולא ביטחוני. ערכנו שיחות של הבכירים ביותר עם מקבילינו הרוסים.
And after asking the Russian president for help, Netanyahu says he came through.
אני שוחחתי פעמיים עם ידידי נשיא רוסיה ולדימיר פוטין, ביקשתי את עזרתו להשיב אותה. והוא אכן פעל, ואני מבקש להודות לו על שנרתם שוב להשבת אזרחים ישראלים ארצה. ישראל תמיד עשתה ותמיד תעשה כל מה שביכולתה כדי להשיב את אזרחינו לארץ.
The woman apparently suffering from a mental health disorder has tried in the past to cross into the Gaza Strip. In exchange for the 25-year-old originally from Modi'in Elite, Israel agreed to release 2 Syrian shepherds who had been arrested for crossing the border from Syria into Israel. Reports also emerged over the weekend that the deal had more elements. Israel allegedly agreeing to send $1 million worth of Russian COVID vaccines to Syria, a report that Israel has not confirmed. Now let's speak to Professor Eyal Zisser, a Middle East expert from Tel Aviv University. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
So first of all, how was this story kept under wraps for 2 whole weeks while this woman had crossed into Syria? Her family had to have known that she was missing, maybe even where she was.
Well, taking into consideration its personal story, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, it was a habit to disappear and try to challenge, let's say, once in Gaza, then in Jordan, in Lebanon. So we shouldn't be surprised. And I guess that the Syrians realized very quickly that it's not a big story. I mean, not an Israeli soldier, nothing that had to do with security issues. But then it took a week or 2, I mean, and it was quite quick. I mean, the Syrians are known for their, well, let's say there were Israeli citizens who were kept in Syrian jails for years. And here, in a matter of 2 weeks, we finished the story.
Right. It is quite unusual. Another unusual element of this story, what do we know about Israel reportedly paying for COVID vaccines for Syria in exchange for this Israeli prisoner?
Well, the Syrians deny the story, but we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's an embarrassing story for them to accept from Israel humanitarian help. I think it was Nasrallah or a top Iranian leader who said that even if Israel is to find a solution or a vaccine, I wouldn't use it. I prefer to die from coronavirus rather than to get vaccine from Israel. So it's some sort of embarrassment, and of course, we are not speaking about something too dramatic. I mean, several thousands of vaccines. I mean, the total, the size of the Syrian population is 26 million. So it's really nothing. I guess it's more of a gesture of Netanyahu to Putin. And well, the Russians do not need it. I guess it was some sort of we gave you something, we don't do it for free. You should give us something in return, but it shouldn't be something too dramatic, I guess. 1 million, it's really nothing.
Right. And, you know, I'm also curious, how was this even possible? How was this woman able to walk, you know, right through the border? Isn't there multi-level security, including cameras and sensors? How did the IDF allow this to even happen?
Well, first of all, you know, the police security forces watch the border very closely, but they look for those who approach it from the Syrian side, not from those who approach it from the Israeli side. And then there are some areas, especially on the Golan Heights, where it's very difficult to build a wall or a fence like we have on the Lebanese border or the Egyptian border. And also it was relatively a quiet border. I mean, it's not the Egyptian border where 150,000 illegal immigrants crossed the border and Israel had to build this wall, or it's not the border with Lebanon. Relatively, it was very quiet.
Right.
This is why it was not as secure as other
well, maybe
fence.
after this development, they'll keep a little bit of a closer eye on the border. Professor,
agree.
Thank you so much for being with me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
On your mark, get set, go. Today is the day all vaccinated Israelis have been waiting for. It's the day they will begin to have special, exclusive privileges that the unvaccinated will not. The question is, will it work? No word yet, but in the meantime, here's more from Chana Rifkin.
The long-anticipated opening of malls, gyms, and hotels is kicking off today as Israel launches its Green Passport program, allowing vaccinated citizens to visit previously shut facilities.
כל מי שיש לו את התו הירוק יכול ליהנות מחדרי הכושר, מבתי קולנוע בקרוב, ממסעדות, מטיסות, כל הדברים הללו יינתנו לכם, אבל אנחנו עושים את זה בזהירות, ובזמן הזה אני מבקש מכולם ללכת להתחסן. בסוף התו הירוק האמיתי זה המסכה, החיסון והכרטיס הזה.
The Prime Minister showing off his weightlifting skills while inaugurating a new chapter of the pandemic in Israel. The Health Ministry launching a special phone app that will allow the vaccinated to know what they can and can't do.
עם התו הירוק הדלתות פשוט נפתחות לפניכם. תוכלו לצאת למסעדות. כמה התגעגענו לצאת עם חברים. לחדר כושר. כן, אתם יכולים.
היום אנחנו מציגים בשורה ענקית למתחסנים. כך ייראה השלב הראשון שלכם בחזרה לחיים הכמעט נורמליים.
As of Sunday, 4.3 million Israelis have received a first dose of the vaccine and nearly 3 million have had both. The Tel Aviv municipality even giving out beers as incentives.
So I came to do a vaccine against COVID-19. Tel Aviv municipality did a cool idea where they call youngsters to do a vaccine in a bar, and thanks to that they give free beer. I was ill in the beginning, and I had I got it really bad. Everyone can get it bad, also young people. So I didn't want to give up, and I finally did it, so I'm happy, and I have my beer now.
Israel is continuing to lead the world's vaccine campaign, and even the head of the U.S. National COVID Task Force, Anthony Fauci, has taken notice.
We have been hearing and seeing in the press that Israel has a remarkable diminution in cases associated with the efficiency of their vaccine. The reason I bring this out to you is that it is another example of the scientific data starting to point to the fact that vaccine is important.
Meanwhile, a new Israeli study has found the Pfizer vaccine might be up to 85% effective after just one dose, higher than the company had initially advertised. Israel has also revealed plans to vaccinate 100,000 Palestinian workers in the coming weeks. As of Sunday, the health ministry recorded 1,240 new cases. There are 857 Israelis in serious condition and 273 on ventilators. The death toll is 5,569. Chana Rifkin, ILTV.
An Iranian athlete competed at a tournament in Israel this week, probably a sentence you never thought you'd hear. Syed Molei is an Iranian judoka who fled his country after ignoring orders to drop out of a match in 2019 to avoid facing an Israeli opponent. Now he took home the silver medal of the Tel Aviv Grand Slam.
Thanks for all, and I'm very, very happy. I'm in Tel Aviv Grand Slam, my first medal. I hope next time gold.
Were you happy to compete in Israel? Was it a good feeling?
Yes, but me, a sportsman, I'm not politic or another. I'm very, very happy come to Israel for Mongolian team. Thanks for all Israeli people support for me. Thanks for IGF, Mr. President, and thanks for Mr. Ponte. Very helpful for me. Thanks for Israeli people and Iranian live in Israel. Thanks for all.
And that was the moment Israel's own Timna Nelson-Levy took a gold medal home from the tournament. Nelson-Levy took on a French judoka in the finals in the under 57 kilo weight class, defeating her within just 18 seconds. Now let's go live to Timna, who joins us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So firstly, congratulations. What an exciting achievement to win gold on your home turf. How did that feel?
Thank you very much. It felt amazing. You know, first of all, winning gold, nothing can beat that feeling. But winning gold on your home soil, it's the best. And it felt amazing. And although we didn't have our audience and people couldn't come and watch, I felt all the love and support. And it was just heartwarming, really.
It was a historic event for several reasons. For one, because there was an Iranian judoka participating. Did you actually get a chance to meet him?
Yes, of course. First of all, he was very friendly, and he's one of the sweetest guys I know. Also, his coach. For him to come here, it was just an outstanding thing to see. He's an outstanding athlete, and as a person, who he is, he's amazing. And what he did, I just look at him as a role model because he really shows what the judo is more than sport, and what he did was so brave and heroic. And a lot of people in Israel just love and support him, and I think he really felt it here. When he got here, we took really good care of him. He got everything, you know, we gave him physio and a masseuse, and I think he really felt the love we have for him.
You also mentioned that there weren't too many people in the crowds. What other measures were in place due to COVID, since obviously it's pretty controversial to have an international sports event in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, listen, it was crazy to have, in the beginning, we were like, we weren't sure that it will even happen because Israel is in lockdown, the airport is closed. But for the World Judo, for the IJF and for the Judo Association here in Israel, to make sure that this competition will happen, it was crazy, and I think they made it. Like I competed in places all over the world, but one of the best competitions organized ever, I think, because they took so much care for the bubble we were in. We did corona checks. I think I did maybe 6 corona checks the last week. And all the athletes, we took all the measures, and it was amazing to see.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you to maybe give us a demonstration of some judo move, but I realize now that might be a little bit awkward since you don't have an opponent with you.
It will be hard, but I can show you my gold medal.
Wow, amazing, amazing.
Yeah. Maybe next time I'll show you when we meet the judo move.
That would be great. Thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations again.
Pleasure, no problem.
Moving now to a more somber story. A whale was found washed up dead over the weekend on Israel's coast, believed to have been killed by pollution resulting from a tar spill. The 17-meter, 55-foot fin whale was found on Nitzanim Beach in the south, along with other deceased sea creatures. Now, a major cleanup operation is underway, but only if volunteers have the right protective gear, because the substance has been making beachgoers ill, and the IDF has joined the effort as well. Well, let's speak with Shaul Goldstein, the president of Israel's Nature and Parks Authority. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
So firstly, what exactly happened here, and how bad is the spill?
For us, it's very, very bad. What happened is most probably a ship going for Suez Canal to Europe spilled an oil load. We don't know exactly how much. We assume about 1,000 tons of oil into the sea. The sea was very hectic during the last week, and this spill got over to the shores of Israel from north to south. All over is covered with this a mixture of oil.
So how is that cleanup effort going? I understand the pollution has actually made some of the volunteers ill, and now the IDF is involved, correct?
And we have a lot of volunteers. The IDF is also volunteering through us. But as you said, a couple of the people got sick from the vapors of this contamination. But they're treated and are very easily treated, no problem at all. And they return to work. But we have to be very precautious using defending instruments in order to deal with these materials, which is evaporating and polluting very dangerous gases.
So we can see that you're actually talking to us from your car. We know you're on the way from a very important meeting you had with the Prime Minister. How is he supporting the cleanup effort?
He's going to pass a bill through the government in order to support the aid for the cleaning up. We're talking about $60 million of helping us cleaning up the seashore. It will take between half a year to a year. Hundreds of people, thousands of volunteers. Together, we can make a change in the seashores of Israel. And the Prime Minister is very determined to find the responsible for this pollution and to connect us with other countries to learn from their experience.
Sir, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm sure many people in Israel want to go to the beach. Is it safe right now?
Right now, no. Most of the beaches are still dirty. Those beaches that were cleaned up by the local authorities or by us are totally safe. When it's open, it's good. The sea is pretty cold right now, so those who want to swim in the sea, in those clean the shores, no problem at all. The sea is clean, and some of the beaches are clean right now. Other places, we will not let them in.
One last question for you, sir. There were reports that the dead whale that was found could be because of that tar spill. Are we sure about that? Is that what caused his death?
We're not sure. We examined the whale, and we operated it, his body. The materials we found there seems to be like hydrophobe, which means a remaining of oil. But we sent them to a laboratory, and within a couple hours, we'll get an answer. But we are very suspicious that this is the whale who were dead by the oil spill.
All right, Mr. Goldstein, thank you so much, and best of luck with that cleanup effort.
Thank you.
Well, Israel's first Nano Satellite, completely designed, developed, and assembled by an Israeli university, launched into space on Saturday night. The TAU Sat-1 took off right on time at 7:36 p.m. Israel time from the NASA launch facility in Virginia. Take a look.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have engine ignition. Main engine start. And we have liftoff up in Perry for NG-15 mission. The launch flight facility.
And we are so lucky to be joined by Professor Colin Price from the Porter School of Environment and Earth Sciences and the head of the Nano Satellite project at Tel Aviv University. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
So what exactly is the purpose of this satellite mission, and how much of an accomplishment is it that a university is behind it, and an Israeli university at that?
So there are two aspects to this. One is the scientific research, and the other one is the educational side of the project. Obviously, we want to educate the students and the future scientists in Israel who will be dealing with space, engineering, sciences. And so having the students part of this and actually building the satellites and writing the software and dealing with the communications to get the data down, testing the satellite here in our clean room, which has a vacuum chamber and a thermal chamber. We have to test before it goes into space. Gives our students the tools that they're going to need in industry afterwards. And for us, the scientists, we're interested in actually doing science with these nanosatellites, which are very small, shoe-sized box satellites, about 30 centimeters long, and on each side 10 by 10 centimeters. You can hold it in your hand, only a few kilos in weight. And so these new satellites are actually a revolution in space, that because things are becoming so small, the technology, things are becoming modular, you can actually build them in a university. Some of the parts you can even order over the internet. And as you can see the picture here of our small satellite. And you can do all of this from your initial idea to building to launch, everything within 2 years. And that's what we've been doing over the last 2 years.
It's hard to believe that the device is so small you can actually hold it in the palm of your hand. What kind of experiments and research will the satellite be involved in, and how heavily involved will the students be in the research?
So the research we're dealing with is related to a topic called space weather. We have weather on Earth. We know we had a big storm in Israel last week. Well, in space we also have weather. We call it space weather. And the storms in space originate on the sun's surface. And when we have storms on the sun, we have a large amount of material, energetic particles, microscopic particles, which are kind of blown out from the sun. We even call it the solar wind, as well as radiation, X-rays, ultraviolet. And when these hit the Earth's atmosphere, they can cause a lot of damage to astronauts in space, to satellites. For example, the GPS satellites, if they get hit by these storms, we can actually be without GPS or inaccurate GPS for a few days. And in extreme situations, they can even cause power failures at the surface. And so our satellite is actually to study these, the local environment around the satellite at an altitude of about 400 kilometers, and to measure the particles, the energy of the particles, how they vary as it's a function of location, with latitude as the satellite's going around the Earth, the difference between day and night. And so we're interested to understand the local environment in space around the satellites to make, in the future, satellites safer, and also for the safety of astronauts that will be out in those fairly dangerous conditions.
Really, really fascinating stuff. Professor, thank you so much for being with us today, and good luck on your journey. We will be following it. Absolutely.
Thank you. You're welcome.
On that note, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy to clear skies tonight and tomorrow, as lows this evening will rest at an average of 44 degrees Fahrenheit or about 6 degrees Celsius. And highs tomorrow will hit 65 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 degrees Celsius. And just before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. So that is the Western Wall in the old city of Jerusalem, caught in a snowstorm. Wow, what beautiful, unique images. Oh, and there's a bride and a groom having their wedding in a snowstorm at the Western Wall. What a unique experience. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.27 shekels to the American dollar and 2.59 shekels to the Canadian dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to visit the all-new and improved ILTV website at iltv.tv and subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates while you're there. I'm Lauren Izzo. Thank you so much for watching.